Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. It's the only maximum security women's prison in New York State. Carolyn Warmus has been incarcerated here for 25 years.
Yes or no? Are you a violent person?
No, never.
Are you a jealous person?
No, I mean, maybe I'm a little envious of girls, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's a beautiful outfit she's got on, or where'd she get those shoes or something, but...
If you don't get what you want, does it drive you crazy if you don't get it?
No, I wouldn't say it would drive me crazy, but I'll be persistent. I'm persistent.
Certainly persistent in researching and meticulously gathering new information for an appeal called a 440, a plea to re-examine the case based on new evidence.
Are you a killer?
No, definitely not a killer. I don't even like to kill little bugs. I take the spiders and I put them outside the window at home. Can't do that anymore, but the windows are closed.
So who do you think would want Betty Jean dead?
Honestly, for the life of me, I could not imagine Paul being involved in this. I couldn't. Because just like he had said to me, he could divorce her in a couple of years.
But during the first trial, the defense raised suspicions about Paul Solomon's involvement. And Warmus's new appeal cites police reports of life insurance policies taken out on Betty Jean.
Would Paul Solomon want to kill his wife for money?
I am not saying that Paul Solomon or Vincent Parco pulled any triggers. I just don't think that they're pristine, clean, and unadulterated in this action.
Paul Solomon always denied involvement in his wife's death. What's more, Solomon and private investigator Vincent Parco testified they couldn't have framed Carolyn because they didn't know each other. Warmus's lawyer, James Lenahan, who observed both of Carolyn's trials as a law student, says there is evidence in the 440 that suggests they did know each other.
What's that evidence?
Well, you have neighbors who allegedly have seen Vincent Parco in that area around the apartment. The stories that were given by Mr. Parco and Mr. Solomon don't always add up.
Vincent Parco sold Carolyn Warmus a gun. She was convicted of murder. What else is there?
Who said Vincent Parco sold her the gun?
He said he sold her the gun.
And he's a paragon of truth, right?
Vinnie Parco's story has grown since he took the stand last year.
And remember, both Parco and Solomon were granted immunity for their testimony.
As I remember the evening, that is not the way it transpired.
But why did they receive immunity in the first place? Prosecutor James McCarty declined comment, but Professor Bennett Gershman says immunity is up to a prosecutor's discretion.
Immunity forces people to testify, but they're testifying knowing that they're not in trouble. Sometimes prosecutors give immunity to the wrong people.
Gershman is the author of the legal textbook, Prosecutorial Misconduct.
There are probably thousands and thousands of inmates sitting in jails around the country who are innocent.
He thinks Warmus may be one of them. He thought Jeffrey Descovich was, and he was right.
I spent 16 years in prison for a murder and rape which I did not commit. I was wrongfully imprisoned from years 17 to 32 before ultimately being exonerated by DNA testing 10 years ago.
Descovich successfully sued multiple investigators and prosecutors who had a hand in his wrongful conviction.
I brought lawsuits in state and federal courts. The medical examiner later admitted in the course of a lawsuit that the slides he formed the basis of his findings didn't actually exist.
The same medical examiner in the same crime lab who determined the time of Betty Jean Solomon's death.
First, the death occurred between 2 and 6 o'clock. When it's shown that she has a total place that she is from 2 to 6, they changed it to 7-something.
The medical examiner testified that the change 3 months after the murder was based on new evidence, but it was a change that shifted the spotlight to Carolyn Warmus and helped Paul Solomon with his alibi, according to the 440.
His alibi is that he was bowling. He was only there for 3 minutes. There are neighbors that made statements to the effect that they saw him there during that period of time, 6:45.
In their appeal, Warmus's legal team points to 3 cases where misconduct was proven to have occurred. All of them involved evidence tampering at the same lab that handled Betty Jean Solomon's case. The Westchester Crime Lab didn't respond to our request for comment. And most damningly, the 440 cites documents Carolyn was legally entitled to and never received. Documents that could, quote, create reasonable doubt and show the possibility of a conspiracy to wrongfully convict Carolyn. Critical information Warmus's lawyer wished the jury had heard.
I think if they knew everything that there is to know now, none of those people would vote the same way. None of them.
Convicting the defendant, Carolyn Warmus.
When we come back, Carolyn Warmus, for the first time, up for parole.
Do you ever think you are going to leave this prison?